For notes on a timeline of liability, as me and some other people were talking about, the arrest by Greenville police that happened at John O's store, it was brutal. It was really bad. Like, it broke my foot and it pulled my arm out, and it was years of correcting that, the last 4 of a lot of routine, and I was at a point where I was finally able to not need that gear. I didn't have to have my shoulder gear. It was kind of almost a celebration lap in my world, being able to walk the John O's and not have the gear on. But the level of exhaustion it was when it got there was why my hip wouldn't work, and as soon as my arms were pulled behind me and no one was listening, the pain, forget it. Like, I can't describe when you got left side neglect and the brain decides to shut off everything. There's no control, and as soon as that pain began and they weren't listening to me on any level, it was just ask my name and then grab my arms, and I was like, no, 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 and boom, down I go, and then they just were forcefully telling me to stand when I couldn't, and then hard cuffing me with my shoulder forced out, and the brutality. So, as I'm talking to other people about it and talking of liability, how that's just not cool, and I want it to be clear to my attorney and to the courts that I don't believe that the police were at fault for this. They were out of line, yes, but they were misdirected. And the misdirection comes from this liability that me and others are discussing on a timeline. It's protocol for police to know what the medical condition is of a person with things like that. If a person is blind and they're going to arrest them, or if a person is partially paralyzed and they're going to arrest them, it's automatically like in their computers if things are being done properly. So they were told that there was a warrant for my arrest and I was a completely normal person. The warrant for my arrest was based on people filing false information to family court, and the timeline shows it. Leading up to that, it began with a ruling of my capacity while the patient of St. Joe's Hospital in 2015 that my parents coordinated to hide medical info while they were guardian and conservator. They hid what my actual medical condition was from probate court, wheeled me into the court while the patient of a hospital, got the court to say I was a normal person, and then they just used my signature to steal everything. Business, insurance settlements, my 3-bedroom home. That began it. So that probate court ruling in 2015 while the patient of St. Joe's Hospital in Nashua has been the point that they have used to then misinform, to keep Health and Human Services misdirected, to keep law enforcement misdirected, to keep everyone misdirected. They maintain that. For some reason, even though there has been a fiasco about it, and the misuse of probate court again in 2021 by Monadnock Developmental Services, filing for a false emergency guardian, that suddenly I needed a guardian. So Roger, Lynn, and Tim, the traumatic brain injury contractor for Monadnock Developmental Services, while I was at St. Joe's, they had probate court make a ruling that I was a normal person by hiding my medical info. They then got me transferred to Crotchet, and then while at Crotchet, they did whatever they did with paperwork to get insurance settlements in motion through my company, but put all the liability on me and my signature as if I was normal, as they had tactically done with probate court while I was at St. Joe's. In these years, I'll never remember in my life. It was a miracle I could talk, and that's why they hid my medical info from probate court and wheeled me in and told me, tell the judge you can take care of yourself, and I guess I did. So the way that they used documentation following that with a transfer to Crotchet and then have me sign things, then get me released to my own home. And the reason why I was released prematurely, we're talking about 18 months to 2 years early. It was them telling Crotchet that I wanted to go home, and then using my medical documentation and using Health and Human Services to get funding as if I was getting medical care at home. While probate court has me ruled as my own guardian, they're tactically using the medical info and the severity of it to get Health and Human Services to believe that I'm getting medical care at home, hospital care at home. So I wasn't breaking down because they didn't modify anything in the home. They put me back into the home in the condition it was on the day I was injured, which was under construction. I was renovating that property on the day I was injured. So like there wasn't access to a working bathroom because I was renovating and adding one. There wasn't a roof on. The siding was off. I mean, what they put me back into was a position that was identical to the day I was injured, and then they told people to tell me to go back to work as if I was normal, and nothing happened. And that's what people did to assist Roger, Lynn, and Tim in the theft of that home, $250,000 in construction equipment from the company I was operating when injured. The insurance settlement from that company, because it was my own company that I was operating, I was in my own vehicle, on my own payroll, paying my own driver, all on the books, covered by state insurance. I mean, I was paying my insurance companies as an operating LLC that was legit in New Hampshire. So my driver that I was paying was driving our vehicle, and we were going to pick up a door for that property, and this is when the accident happened. A rock came through the windshield. I'll never remember years following. What they did was take every single penny they could using my medical identity and then manipulating with my social security number, as Lynn was conservator and Roger was guardian. And then they manipulated the court to put liability back on me, but they maintained those PowerPoints and used their administrative education in the contact of Tim Donovan through Monadnock Developmental Services to keep extracting funding from Health and Human Services in the state of New Hampshire. And Lynn Howard, as the hidden conservator, made bank accounts in my name, so the funding would be going to those accounts. So on the books, it all looked like it was legit, right from the get-go. This is what Roger, LeComte, Lynn Howard, and Tim Donovan coordinated. The documents tell this tale. Like, these are years I'll never remember. The way that my brother Ryan helped them, the way that Tanya Dysart helped them, the way that Jolene Rogers helped them. It's all in the checks. It's in the checks these people took. It's in the years they were in that home and nothing was modified, and they were just convincing me to continue working as if nothing happened. And they'll all claim that it was me telling them. It was me telling them I was normal, and that's why they believed it. When Roger, Lynn, and Tim lined it up so that I would get released from the hospital with that vulnerability, but the court saying he's normal, so then these three people just went with the show. Keep him believing he's normal and keep him signing checks until everything's gone, and that's what they did. They thought they would break me down and I would recover medically. That was the plan of these six people, being Roger, Lynn, and Tim, Jolene, Tanya, and Ryan. 3 and 3. There's two sets of three people that work together. So the 6 adults total in a $2.5 million assault, which killed Hannah and is still separating me, Tristan, and Gabriel, and successfully took our home, wrecked half the body, stripped the business. The list goes on of the hell these people have put me and my kids through for money. So, the timeline of liability goes back to those people. It goes back to my blood parents, Roger, LeComte, and Lynn Howard. They were awarded guardianship and conservator, and everything in the Department of Health and Human Services records and court proceedings from family court and probate court following that injury with the WMUR false broadcast, it all shows the evidence of how they were assisted by Tim Donovan with the misuse of Monadnock Developmental Services for filings to cover their attack, which began while the patient of St. Joe's, and the manipulation of probate court with medical fraud. Some days I'm glad that I can't remember this, and then other days it makes me more angry than I can possibly describe. And those videos get deleted.